It's nice to sit down with you today. My name is Mason Hanley, and I'm interviewing you today for an episode of the Lowellian. If you wouldn't mind introducing yourself.
Thank you, Mason, and thank you for having me here. I'm very excited to be here. My name is Sokhary Chau, and I am the mayor of the city of Lowell.
Thank you. So for our first question today, I wanted to ask you if you would mind telling us a little bit about your journey to Lowell and what made you want to become the mayor of the city.
That's a good question, and it took nearly 40 years to become the mayor of Lowell, but I will try to answer that in about 1 or 2 minutes. So I'm an immigrant from Cambodia, and the reason many of the Cambodian Americans came to Lowell, it was because of the war in Cambodia in 1975, when there was a genocide in our country. Then in 1979, many of us fled to the border of Thailand, where we stayed in the camps there as refugees. And I came to the United States in 1981. We were sponsored, my whole family was sponsored by the Catholic Church. And by 1985, we came to Lowell. When I came to Lowell, I went to the acre section of the city. That is sort of a passage of rights from many different immigrant groups when they came to Lowell, because the acre is always has been one of the most affordable section of the city. And I grew up in the acre, and then I went to public schools here in Lowell. I was fortunate enough to go to college, and I came back to Lowell because of my family. A couple of years ago, I'm just giving this in a brief summary because I know we have to cover a lot of topics. A few years ago, there was some seats that were open on a council, and my friends and my family and I were talking, and we all believed that while the leadership were doing great things to make change in the city, but some of us felt that our voices were not there. So my family and friends encouraged me to run for city council. I did not win the first time I ran, which was 2017. I ran again in 2019, and I won a seat on the city council. I served for 1 term on the city council, and this present term, I won as a city councilor, and my colleagues elected me to be the mayor.
Thank you very much. That's amazing. It's a very nice, I think, with such a large portion of Lowell's community and population being Asian American as well as Cambodian, it's inspiring to have you rise up to advocate for the voices.
Thank you. And Lowell has always been an immigrant city. It has been built by the immigrants for a couple hundred years. We had the Irish, the French, the Polish, the Greeks, the Italians. Everyone, they has Hispanics, Latinos, and recently the African community. So Lowell is as a melting pot, and for the Southeast Asian community in particular, we began to arrive in Lowell in the 1980s. And at that time, it was, for the most part, because of the unskilled labor that were available in the Lowell and the Lowell region. And so, coming out of the war, coming from the refugee camps, we did not speak my older siblings, in addition to many other Cambodian Americans or Southeast Asian immigrants group, did not speak the language or have much skill. So working in assembly line, in factories, was a major factor in terms of coming to Lowell, and words, through words of mouth, it passed to other friends and families in other states in the country, including California and Texas and New York. They all came to Lowell, and we began to build the Asian community here in Lowell. And Lowell has been very, very welcoming to immigrant groups, and we decided to stay and build our community here. The Asian community started small businesses. The kids that grow up here not only attend public schools here, but then they were able to learn the language, able to pursue higher education, whether in community college or 4-year universities, and they have professional jobs now and just start building the families and make Lowell their home now.
Thank you very much. So one other question that I would like to ask you, kind of building off what we've talked about, Lowell, from your perspective, what are some of the biggest issues that Lowell faces right now?
There's quite a few, and you have issues that are ongoing year after year because we're always facing. Lowell is a gateway city. We always face resources, and one of the most important resources is money, is funding. So we always focus on having clean streets, clean parks, public safety. And why is that important, especially with clean parks and clean streets? Because we have about 115 to 120,000 residents here in Lowell, and we don't have that many green space. So it's very important, like the green space we have, the parks that we have, to keep it clean, to keep it green, because especially for the minority population, where we are in the group, the category of not having much income. So many families live in small apartments or in multi-unit apartment buildings. The families and the kids really rely on the parks to have open space. And if they go to the public parks, if it's not clean, if it's not green grass, playground, trees, for a place for them to walk or to play, they don't have much outlet. And that's very, very important for the quality of life and as well as for mental health. On another level of significance, importance is for the adults, for the economy. And in short, it's the jobs. Jobs at the city level, jobs in the public school, jobs with the different city departments like the police department, the fire department, even jobs inside City Hall itself. We want to have a diverse workforce. We want to have a diversified employees. Basically people who work in the school, people work in the police department, the fire department, at City Hall, to reflect the population. To basically to look like us, especially at City Hall. When people walk into City Hall, it still look big, it still look stoic, and when language is a barrier, culture differences, and we don't know all the ins and outs of the system, it is intimidating. But when you walk into City Hall, you have somebody that come from your community that can speak your language. You feel more comfortable. You feel that government is more friendly to you, and they're more able to help you out. And that's very important. It's not just the immigrants coming from Southeast Asian countries. You have immigrants coming from African countries, from Latino and Hispanic countries, where there's not that openness to the government, that friendliness to the government. And in America, we pride ourselves on democracy, on treating everybody equally. So it's very, very important that our City Hall is friendly, is open, and that's why a diverse workforce is very, very important to the city.
Right, so trying to make some of those departments more representative of the communities in Lowell?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Amazing. And from a community question, actually, kind of leading off of that, from your perspective again, what would you say that Lowell's highest priority problem that they're facing is right now that may involve funding on the state level?
Absolutely. There's a couple things that we are working on currently, and it's an ongoing project. And funding from the state and funding from the federal level are very important. For education, right now we're talking about, as you know, that the governor's office talking about free college tuition, at least for the Middlesex Community College or community college in general, throughout the state. All of us, we believe that in order to pursue quality of life in the future, you need to have good education, so that way you can get good jobs and raise your family. So funding for education is very, very important. Also healthcare issues, like I'm going to talk about, this is a problem an issue for the entire state and for the country, but I focus in Lowell because Lowell has a various group of ethnicity, and many are still immigrants or first generation. in Lowell, and access to healthcare needs to be improved. Outreach, when we came from a country that does not have a good healthcare system, and when we come here, we need to get funding for health insurance, and also funding for many of the community clinics. For example, Lowell Community Health Center. They do a fantastic job in hiring professional healthcare professionals from different groups, so that way to provide the language, access to language, access to healthcare. So it's important to get fundings to expand those programs. And something as simple as vaccination. We all are very aware of the COVID-19 vaccination, but what we may not be aware of is the vaccination for hepatitis. That's also very, very important because, especially with the Asian American community, there's a high number of proportion of the people getting infected by hepatitis, and that's due to not having enough education or outreach to the community. These are something that's preventable through vaccination. So I think funding for education, for outreach, to reach the rest of the community for healthcare access, that's very, very important.
Absolutely, I agree with you. Thank you very much. Turning away from some of the problems that Lowell is facing, how would you like to see Lowell change in the coming years?
Lowell is always changing, so, and it's been changing for the better, in my opinion. Like I said, when I first arrived in 1985 to Lowell, it wasn't that safe to walk around. Just on that aspect in itself, in the past couple of decades, there's been increase in community policing. There's much more understanding and much more diverse police officers now than before. And that helps a lot. That helps the community to feel safe, and if they have issues in terms of safety issues, that are able to reach out to the police department. And now where we have more representation, diverse representation on the city council as well, I believe that many of the community members from different neighborhoods, if they're not comfortable with one representative or another, they have other representative to contact. In terms of what I really want to change, that I would like to work more on it. There's always more that we can work on, and I think one of the things I want to see more is to have increased services and increased resources to neighborhoods that have been underserved. And those neighborhoods that are underserved because the majority of the residents there, they are underprivileged, and meaning that they are poor pretty much. And so we need to put more resources into neighborhoods. There's an area in Lowell called Cambodia Town, and there's a Clemente Park, but it's also there's the acre when I first came. So I'd like to see more resources, more services going to more underprivileged neighborhoods. Absolutely.
In these issues, upon looking at different solutions, how do you navigate the wide variety of political opinions that we see in Lowell from its different communities?
That's an excellent question, and I talk about that not just among my colleagues in Lowell or the residents in Lowell, but even in the Boston area. Lowell is very diverse, not just in terms of ethnicity, but we are very diverse in socioeconomic status, and diverse in different types of neighborhoods, and diverse in different political opinions and philosophy. And I am fortunate that I appreciate what Lowell has done in the past and brought Lowell to this point where I am to become a mayor of the city. And I think if it had not been the great works of my predecessors, whether big or small, we would not have reached this point. So Lowell, on the one hand, you have various different political opinions, but I think what's more important, even though we might think differently, we might approach differently, we all work towards what we think is best for the city and what's best for the residents. We might try to reach that goal differently, but I think at the end of the day, we are gonna ask ourselves, what can we do to improve the city? And with that in mind, I always listen to people first. I want to see how they want to achieve their goals, especially among my colleagues. I step into a conversation, into a conference, into a meeting, understanding that we may or may not agree on an idea, but I always will listen to them first. And if we both agree on it, that's easy. It's going to be a short conversation. But if we disagree, I will try to understand, why they want to approach a certain issue a certain way, and see, my first assessment and see, is this really going to be good for the city? And we don't have to do things the same way, but and we can do things differently. So I will agree with them if I also feel that will be good for the city, and I might not follow them, but if it's good for the city, I think ultimately we can agree on that.
Amazing. A community question that I felt kind of tied into that topic was, how difficult can it be to represent the voice of the people in Lowell when sometimes that voice may go against your own personal beliefs on a situation? And if you've had any situations where, that has happened.
Sure. First of all, you take a deep breath. If it's absolutely against my what I truly believe in, that should be done. But thankfully, that does not happen that often, because when you start having a discussion and you respect the other person respect you, like I said before, you can disagree on opinion, because we both think this is the best way to make Lowell better. But there's still a small, minute situation where it's absolutely not good for the city, and that is racism. And I experienced firsthand, growing up as kids in the city. When I said before in the first right, it wasn't safe to walk around the city at that time. People could be screaming negative words toward you or slanders toward you. And now, as an elected official, and every couple of years we have to campaign to get reelected. And so one of the things I do to campaign is to walk around the neighborhoods, knock on doors, and most often, I would say 99.99% of the time, people are very welcoming, people are very friendly, even though if they did not agree with some of the things I'm doing, with some of my votes, they are still very, very, very friendly. But then you run into a very, very few individuals that just don't like you because you're Asian or just because you're a minority. There's no way to agree on that. And that's something that I don't even entertain the conversation. If you start talking negatively, not only about the Asian immigrants, but on any minority group, whether it's the African Americans or the Hispanics or Latinos. There's no way to go about that. So having some individual talk negatively about a minority group based on their ethnicity or even based on their religion, that to me is, I will not entertain that, I will not listen to that. We cannot come to an agreement on anything that's negative about any groups of people.
Right. There's just no way that could be in the best interests of making Lowell a safer and better city.
There's no place for hate in Lowell, whether it's racism or whether it's gender or sexual orientation. There's no place for that in Lowell. We can disagree on a lot of things on the way to make the economy, the policies, anything. But absolutely, there's no place for hate in our city.
Thank you for your answer. To take a step away from some of the more drastic things that we have talked about in Lowell, What does a day in the life of the mayor look like?
Sure, that's the more fun thing to answer. So this is one of the things that I do during the day. Not just myself as a mayor, but my colleagues as well on the council. Everybody has a full-time job. So serving as an elected official in Lowell, local official, school committees, and councilors, it is considered a part-time job. So we all have to work a real job to pay the bills. Outside of our regular job, I try to meet as many people, as many individuals as I can to talk about different issues. We have calls and emails and letters from residents that might have issue with tax bills, that might have issues with trash being picked up, the streets being cleaned, snow plowing. So I would talk to individuals by telephone or in person or by emails. You also have groups and organizations, for example, from many of the partnership in the city. They like for the city council, for the mayor and the city council to support them on certain projects that they're doing. I would try to meet with them and to understand what they are doing, so I can talk with my colleagues and to support them as well. Or maybe to invite them to speak at the council meeting. I speak with students. I also go to read books to elementary school students as well. That's one of my favorite things to do. Also in Lowell, we have so many fun activities like festivals, parades, cultural events basically. So I would talk to the organizers, see what kind of resource they need and see how I can help them. Even if not in resource, but just in terms of just support, moral support, support from the city administration as well. Just various different individuals and organizations, partners that we talk to, discussing what's going on in the city basically.
Thank you for that answer. I wasn't aware that the council positions were considered a part-time job. That's news to me.
Yes, that's, so to the students and the residents watching this show, be kind to your elected officials. They're balancing the families, balancing work. At the same time, when anyone run, because they want to make a difference in the community and they want to contribute to the community, so they're balancing that as well. And they, even though it's considered part-time, all of them, they all put full-time hours into it. They do a lot of the phone calls, a lot of meetings. They do pretty much what I do. They meet with individuals, they meet with organizations, they go to different events in the evening and the weekends. So all their weekends are gone, and there's some counselor with young children, some counselor with aging parents. They also have to balance that as well.
Right. We'll take that in stride. Be kind to your elected officials. Be kind to your elected officials. So, from your perspective, of course, as the first Khmer mayor, I believe, in the nation, what was accomplishing that like? What, being from the background that you are, did that mean to you?
That's not a great question, and it's harder to answer than one might expect. In the beginning, when I ran for mayor, I thought it would be just an honor to be the mayor of the city of Lowell, because Lowell itself, it's its own country, and it's such a diverse group of people. You have so many residents who come from the Southeast Asian countries and come from Africa, the Hispanic Latinos, European, of course, but it's such a diverse city, and for me to be the mayor of the city, I thought it would be such a great honor, because we represent everybody. We are the United Nations already, and so I didn't think about the second step. After I got elected, news kind of made it all over the world. Literally, it made all the way to Australia, France, Thailand, Cambodia, the Hispanic countries. It even made it to Florida and California. So I received countless phone calls and emails congratulating. And I think what connects everything together, what combines the whole unique experience together, was that I received a lot of congratulations and support from different immigrant groups, where you always project yourself as an Asian immigrant, and you feel like you're connected to the Asian community. But just being an immigrant itself, it's also representing other immigrant groups, because we all share the same experience. Doesn't matter which country we come from. And so I was very proud of the fact that immigrants from different countries say they're very proud of me because I'm an immigrant. Now they see me as a role model. They see me as giving them see what's possible in America, even as an immigrant. So if you work hard, you believe in what you do, you believe in serving others, they themselves, they can also become a leader in the community, in the city or in the state or whatever pursuit that they have in mind, that is possible. And just to be clear on that, I am an immigrant. I came to the United States when I was 8 or 9 years old. So my kids are born here, and it's tough enough for like a first generation or second generation immigrants to become an elected official, but to be an immigrant that came here really recently, that's really give a lot of hopes to other immigrant groups. And so I feel even much more honor, and I take this role, as you can see, like very, very seriously. Even as part-time job, I think I put maybe 2 full-time jobs into the space and the times that I have, try to represent everyone in the city.
And we really appreciate you being able to come out and do that. I can speak for myself and say that it's amazing to see how wide that message spread, well beyond the scope of Massachusetts, well beyond the scope of Lowell, but globally. It was an amazing accomplishment.
Thank you.
This is another question that we had pulled from the community. In your perspective, what's a public resource in Lowell that you find to be underutilized and that the community would benefit from knowing about?
That's another great question. A lot of resources. I don't think there's many resources that are being underutilized in our city because we have such a great demand for, we have limited resources to begin with. So we don't really have resources that the public don't utilize. I think maybe more on the opposite end of it. I think I would encourage more of the residents to go out to support local businesses, because many of the local businesses, they really depend on the public to be patronage, and many small businesses are owned by they call them moms and pops, and it's literally in this case, they're all owned by husband and wives or grandmother or grandfather. So I would encourage people to go out into a different community and go support the local businesses. Another thing that I would encourage students of UMass Lowell and students of Medicine Community College and the rest of the residents is to visit different neighborhoods in the city. We have, the way we look in our mind, we think that the neighborhoods are divided, but I think that's just for categorical purposes, for elections and things like that. But the different neighborhoods just make up one city, one community. But there are some neighborhoods that some people might not feel comfortable going because that neighborhood might have more various unique or ethnic community. For example, like Cambodia Town. There's a lot of great Asian businesses, Asian restaurants, Cambodian food, very authentic. I would encourage people to go visit those restaurants. The foods are delicious, and the owners, they're always very happy to see different type of people walking in. And of course, we mentioned earlier in the beginning, there are a lot of great restaurants in downtown Lowell along Merrimack Street. You have anywhere from Mexican restaurants to Chinese restaurants to Korean, to American. So all different type of foods and restaurants along Merrimack Street in downtown. And you have many great restaurants in the Acre, in Centralville, in South Lowell. So just to touch based on that a little bit, before I became a public official, I myself was sort of guilty of that. I did not visit all the neighborhoods as much as I should have. And now that I visit different neighborhoods, I truly enjoy it. And when you think about diversity, once you visit a different neighborhoods, a different pockets in our city, you really begin to see how diverse Lowell is. Another great neighborhood in the city is Back Central. A lot of great restaurants and business in that area as well. A lot of Portuguese small business in Back Central. So that's one of my favorite places to visit as well.
I find myself in a similar position where, going to school here, I'm very guilty of not moving around as much as I should, but it's nice to hear that, the beautiful diversity of Lowell is just past your comfort zone, at any time. I wanted to ask, as somebody who gets around the city quite a lot, what are some of your favorite community events that go on in Lowell?
There is a lot, so I'm not gonna pick like one because all of them are great, and I might not be able to name all of them. So sure. Please forgive me if people watching they're involved in organizing one activities or another that I may not mention. But there's a few great ones. One's a folk festival, which happens at the end of July every single year. And it is, I believe, it's the biggest free folk festival in the country. And we have great bands all the way from Louisiana, New Orleans to come. We have food vendors from almost every country, from almost every nation. And it's very, very lively. Hundreds of thousands of people come every single year. So it's very, very exciting. It just fills up the whole downtown area. A lot of festivities. The other festival that I go every year is the Southeast Asian Water Festival. It is one of I think it's the first Southeast Asian Water Festival in the country. It became so popular, other states are adopting the Southeast Asian Water Festival. Also, you have different vendors from different Asian countries. But what makes the Southeast Asian Water Festival unique is we have the boat race, we have the dragon race along the Merrimack River. It's such a beautiful sight to see. You also have the Puerto Rican Festival, you have the Greek Festival, you have the Irish Festival. And this year, it was a lot of fun. It was the Winter Festival, which was only a couple months ago. After the Winter Festival, we tried to forget about the winter in New England. But really, the Winter Festival in Lowell is what make winter in Lowell so fun and so unique. I would encourage everyone to go to the Winter Festival next year. It happens sometimes either in January or February, depending on the schedule. But that's a lot of fun. There's so many great activities, and we have the Parade of Lights. We have the kinetic sculpture. I could talk all day long about the kinetic sculpture race. You have individuals designing vehicles that does not use any gas or electricity. All man and women power. So basically, do race through the mud, through the street, through different obstacles, and it draws the attention internationally. And last year, the past summer, we had competitors all the way from California and Nevada. That was a fun kinetic sculpture race last year.
Sounds like word reached pretty far.
Yeah, it has.
So we have time for one more question. And being a student from UMass Lowell myself, I just wanted to ask a little bit on what you know about the relationship of UMass Lowell and Lowell as a city. Obviously, UMass Lowell makes up a large community. And how has that relationship played out from your perspective?
That's an excellent question, and we cannot talk about Lowell without talking about the university. And we are, because the university is so prominent in terms of just the space that UMass Lowell occupy, but also the number of students that make up the population and part of Lowell as well. And UMass Lowell has gone through many transformations. It used to be called something else, from Lowell College to University of Lowell to now to UMass Lowell. So UMass Lowell has always been part of the history of Lowell. and they always have been a great partnership with the city. There's so many collaboration, and interestingly enough, earlier this week we had a delegation from the United Kingdom who visited Lowell, and representative with the UK delegation includes government officials, the housing organization, housing entities that deal with the housing issues in the UK, small business representatives, arts and cultures, and the university as well. So when they came to visit Lowell, two organizations that they want to meet with were the city, myself and the city manager, and with the chancellor of the university. So definitely there's a connection, there's ties between the university and the city, and I could list many different things, but what I would want to say is that we are lucky to have a world-class university right in our backyard. And when I say the transformation of the university over the decades was, the university now, where we used to think of it as a local university, a city university, it is worldwide known. It's a world-class university. And how does the city benefit from having a partnership with a university like that? I look at the university as a think tank, because so many academic research, so many development. Whereas the city, we mainly deal with the day-to-day operation and functioning to keep the city going. The university can provide many things, but I will name a couple of things that the university has worked with the city in the past few months. So the university, I believe the engineering, the science department, they receive about $5 million from the federal to create this device, because we live in the city, as you know. What makes one of the resources that makes so vital is the waterway, the canals, and the Merrimack River. So everyone, so many communities in this area that depend on the water for drinking from Merrimack River, but it's not as clean as we want it to be. So the funding from the federal for the university to develop a device that tests the drinking water and make the drinking water cleaner. And how is that important for the city of Lowell? Again, going back to the gateway city aspect of the city, diverse city, and also in terms of equity. Not everybody can afford to test the purity of the clean water, safe and clean drink water. So especially the poor neighborhoods and the poor families. So by having that device, once it's done, so every family in the city, and not just in the city of Lowell, but for the region, is to be able to test the quality of the drinking water for drinking, for cooking. So that's very, very important. Another aspect that we work with the university is to have the student body, the population of UMass, to be more engaged with the city, and we like the students to be more involved with supporting the downtown business economic development, the festivals. So as you know, a few months ago, the chancellor and the city worked together in bringing the college students to come to the city to participate in different events, and having the student population to be part of the city, support the economy, support the festivals, the culture. It's very, very positive. It's fun. It's a festival, and it's what gives the quality of life to the entire city. So we're very, very lucky. We're fortunate to have this working relationship together.
I agree completely. Thank you for speaking to that, and thank you for coming and doing this interview with us for the Lowellian.
It's my pleasure.
I really appreciate it.
This is great. Okay, thank you, Mason.